Ethan lived in a city where almost everyone had a stress relief partner. These partners were part of a new system created to help people live better and happier lives. The world had changed a lot in the past few years. Life had become fast and stressful, and many people found it hard to relax or talk about their problems. The government wanted to help, so they started giving everyone a partner. These partners came in all shapes and sizes. Some looked human, while others were not. They were chosen for each person carefully, so the match would be perfect. Ethan was a quiet man in his late 20s. He worked at a small office and spent most of his days typing on a computer, answering emails, and sitting in meetings. He did not have many friends, and he lived alone in a small apartment. Sometimes he felt lonely, but he did not tell anyone. He was used to being by himself, so when he found out he was getting a stress relief partner, he was not sure how to feel. He hoped it would not make his life more difficult. On the day his partner was to arrive, Ethan tried to clean up his apartment. He put away his clothes and wiped the dust from the kitchen table. He waited by the window and kept looking at the clock. It was almost sunset when there was a soft knock on his door. Ethan opened it slowly, and a woman stood outside. She looked different from what he expected. She was tall, with pale blue skin that seemed to glow in the low light. Her eyes were large and gentle, and her hair was long and silver, falling down, her back in smooth waves. She wore simple clothes, nothing too fancy, and held a small bag in her hand. Ethan stared for a moment, not knowing what to say. The woman smiled softly and spoke in a calm voice. She said her name was Myra, and she had been assigned to be his partner. Ethan stepped aside and let her in. He offered her a chair at the table, and she sat down quietly. Myra opened her bag and pulled out a card with his name on it. She explained that she had studied about humans and their lives, and she was here to help him feel less alone and less stressed. At first, Ethan felt nervous. He did not know how to act around someone so different from himself. He tried to make small talk, but Myra seemed to understand that he was uncomfortable. She did not force him to talk or ask too many questions. Instead, she told him a little about herself. She said she came from a place far away, and her people were known for being good listeners and helpers. They had been working with humans for only a short time, but Myra had always wanted to meet someone like Ethan. The sun went down, and the city lights shone through the window. Myra's skin glowed softly in the dark, making Ethan feel like he was in a dream. He asked her why she came at night when most other partners arrived during the day. Myra smiled again and said her kind felt more comfortable and safe at night. She told Ethan that sometimes people need help when the world is quiet and dark, not just during busy daytime hours. Ethan thought about this for a moment and realized she was probably right. He often felt his worst at night, when there was no one to talk to and nothing to do but think. Myra made some tea in the kitchen and offered Ethan a cup. The tea was warm and had a strange but pleasant taste. It made Ethan feel calm and sleepy. Myra asked if there was anything he wanted to talk about or if he wanted to sit quietly. Ethan decided to talk a little about his work. He told Myra how he felt tired every day and sometimes did not see the point in what he was doing. Myra listened without interrupting. She nodded and sometimes asked small questions, but mostly she let Ethan speak. It felt good to have someone listen without judging him. After a while, Ethan realized it was late. Myra noticed too and said she would not stay much longer. She stood up and thanked Ethan for letting her in. Before leaving, she told Ethan that she would come back the next night. She said she hoped he would not mind her being around mostly at night, since that was when she could help the most. Ethan said he did not mind, though he was still unsure how this would work. He watched as Myra left, her pale skin almost blending with the moonlight outside. Ethan locked the door and went to bed. He felt strange but not unhappy. Myra was different, but she seemed kind and gentle. He wondered why she was chosen for him and what special reason there could be. As he closed his eyes, he remembered Myra's words about the night. Maybe it was true that some people needed help when everyone else was asleep. For the first time in a long while, Ethan felt a little less alone. He woke up early the next morning. Thinking about Myra, he tried to remember everything she had said and done. Her presence was still fresh in his mind. At work, Ethan was quieter than usual. He kept thinking about his new partner and what would happen that night. His coworkers talked about their own partners, but none of them mentioned anyone like Myra. Most had partners who were cheerful and talkative, always trying to keep things lively during the day. Ethan wondered if he should tell anyone about Myra, but he decided to keep her a secret for now. The day felt long, and Ethan could not wait to go home. When he finally got back to his apartment, he looked around and realized it felt different now. He waited for the sun to set, hoping Myra would come back. As night fell, Ethan turned on a small lamp and tried to read a book. He heard a gentle knock at the door, just like before. Myra was there, smiling softly. She came inside and sat down, making herself comfortable in the quiet room. This time, Ethan felt a little less nervous. He asked Myra if she liked being in the city. Myra said. She found it interesting but also noisy and strange. She talked about her home, describing quiet nights under a sky full of stars. Ethan listened, imagining what it would be like to live somewhere peaceful and different. Myra asked Ethan if he ever felt scared or worried at night. Ethan nodded and told her about his fears. He was afraid of being forgotten, of not doing anything important with his life, and of always being alone. Myra listened quietly, and her presence made Ethan feel a little braver. He realized that talking to Myra helped him see things differently. Myra offered to show Ethan some simple ways to relax. She taught him how to breathe slowly and focus on his heartbeat. She showed him how to clear his mind and think about good memories. At first, Ethan thought it sounded silly, but when he tried it, he felt calm and safe. Myra explained that her people believed in the power of quiet moments, especially at night when the world slowed down. She said that sometimes all a person needed was a little kindness and understanding. Ethan looked at Myra and felt grateful that she was his partner. Even if she was different from everyone else's, he did not know what the future would bring. But for the first time in a long while, he was hopeful. As Myra left that night, she promised to return and help him again. Ethan watched her go and realized he was already looking forward to seeing her the next night. He thought about how much his life had already changed, just from one evening with his new partner. Ethan woke up the next morning thinking about Myra. Her gentle voice and quiet presence were still fresh in his memory. He made breakfast and tried to focus on his daily routine, but he found his mind wandering. He wondered if he had imagined how different things felt after Myra's visit. The city outside was busy as usual, but Ethan moved through the day feeling a little calmer, almost as if a part of Myra's peace had stayed with him. At work, people talked about their own stress relief partners. Some coworkers complained that their partners were too cheerful or always giving advice. Ethan listened and thought about Myra's soft way of helping. He did not join their conversations, keeping the details of his own partner to himself. That evening, Ethan was tired but also strangely excited. He kept looking at the clock, waiting for the sun to go down. When darkness finally settled over the city, he turned on the small lamp in his living room and sat quietly, hoping Myra would come. He did not have to wait long. There was a gentle knock, just like before. Ethan opened the door, and there was Myra. She smiled and stepped inside. Her pale blue skin glowed softly in the warm light. She sat down at the table without saying much, but her calm energy filled the room. Ethan offered Myra some tea, and they sat together drinking in silence for a while. Myra finally spoke, asking Ethan how his day was. Ethan told her about work and how he felt less stressed than usual. He admitted that it was easier to get through the day knowing she would be there at night. Myra nodded, saying that sometimes knowing someone cares can make all the difference. She shared a story from her own world where people spent time together, under the stars, to talk about their worries and dreams. Myra explained that in her culture the night was not just for sleeping. It was a time for healing and connection. As they talked, Ethan realized he wanted to know more about Myra. He asked her why she had chosen to become a stress relief partner. Myra looked thoughtful and said that when her people were invited to join the program, she was one of the first to volunteer. She had always been curious about humans and wanted to help someone who might need her. She told Ethan that she asked to be paired with a person who struggled with loneliness. Ethan was surprised but felt a strange sense of comfort. He admitted that he did feel lonely sometimes, especially at night. Myra smiled softly and said she was glad to be with him. The evening passed quietly, with Myra showing Ethan more ways to relax. She taught him a simple breathing exercise and showed him how to listen to the sounds of the night. They sat by the window, listening to distant cars and the wind moving through the trees. Myra talked about the stars and what they meant to her. People. She explained that on her home planet, everyone believed each star was a wish or a hope. Ethan listened, feeling peaceful. He wondered if he could make a wish too. Myra told him it was never too late to hope for something better. Later, Ethan asked Myra about her abilities. He had noticed that he always felt better after talking to her, as if she could take away his worries. Myra explained that her people were gifted in empathy. They could sense the feelings of others and use their presence to calm strong emotions. Myra said she could not read Ethan's thoughts, but she could feel when he was upset or sad. She promised never to use her abilities to hurt him, only to help. Ethan felt safe and grateful. He told Myra that her kindness made his troubles feel smaller. The next day, Ethan felt the difference even more. He went to work with a new energy, noticing small things he used to ignore. He smiled at people in the hallway and even joined a short conversation by the coffee machine. At lunch, one coworker, Linda, asked if he had a new partner. Ethan only nodded, keeping the details to himself. Linda talked about her own partner, who was always making jokes to cheer her up. Ethan wondered what she would think if she knew about Myra. That night, Myra arrived as usual. She noticed that Ethan seemed happier. She said she could feel the change in his mood. Ethan laughed and said maybe her calmness was rubbing off on him. Myra looked pleased. She asked if he wanted to try something new, a relaxing walk outside. Under the stars, at first Ethan hesitated. He was not used to going out at night, but Myra promised to stay close. Together, they walked through the quiet streets. Myra pointed out constellations and told stories from her world. Ethan felt the cool night air and listened to Myra's soft voice. For the first time in a long while, he felt truly alive and free. As they walked, Ethan talked about his dreams. He admitted he always wanted to travel but never felt brave enough. Myra listened and encouraged him, saying that courage sometimes comes in small steps. She said that even walking outside together was a good start. Ethan realized she was right. When they returned home, Ethan thanked Myra for helping him see things differently. Myra said she was happy to help and that she enjoyed their time together. 2. The days and nights began to follow a new pattern. During the day, Ethan felt stronger and less worried. He did his work and started to enjoy small things, like the taste of his morning coffee or the sound of music on the radio. At night, Myra always came by. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they just sat quietly. Myra never pushed Ethan to share more than he wanted. She understood his moods and respected his space. Ethan felt their bond growing stronger, even if they did not always have to speak. One night, Ethan woke up suddenly from a bad dream. He felt afraid and alone in the dark. But then he heard a soft sound in the living room. Myra was there, sitting by the window, looking out at the stars. Ethan called her name and she came to his side. Myra gently took his hand and told him to breathe slowly. She spoke in a calm voice, helping Ethan feel safe again. The fear from the dream faded away, replaced by a sense of warmth. Ethan realized that Myra was always looking out for him, even when he did not ask for help. As time passed, Ethan found himself looking forward to Myra's visits. He started to keep a journal, writing about how he felt each day. He noticed that he smiled more and worried less. Sometimes he caught himself humming a tune while cooking dinner. He realized that his life had changed in small but important ways. He wondered if other people had partners like Myra, but he never heard anyone describe an experience like his. He began to think that maybe his partnership was special one evening. As they sat together, Myra asked Ethan if he had any wishes for the future. Ethan thought for a long time. He said he wanted to be happier and maybe make some friends. He said he wished he could be less afraid of new things. Myra nodded and said she believed he could achieve these wishes. She reminded him that change happens slowly and it was okay to take one step at a time. Ethan thanked Myra for believing in him. He said he did not know what he would do without her. Before leaving that night, Myra told Ethan something important. She said that even if people were different or came from faraway places, they could still understand each other. Myra said she was grateful to be his partner and that she learned from him too. Ethan felt moved by her words. As she left, he felt a quiet joy in his heart, knowing he was not alone anymore. He looked forward to many more nights with Myra, learning and growing together. Ethan's life continued to change little by little, and every day felt a little lighter. He noticed that he was starting to look forward to things he used to ignore. Each morning, he would wake up thinking about what he wanted to tell Myra later. That night, the hope of their quiet talks made the busy hours at work much easier. He found himself more willing to listen to people around him and even offered a smile to strangers in the hallway. He still kept Myra a secret, feeling that what they shared was something special. At work, the boss announced that there would be a team project starting soon, and Ethan was chosen as a group leader. This made Ethan nervous because he was not used to telling others what to do. When he got home that night, Myra noticed that he looked troubled. She sat with him and listened quietly while he shared his worries. He told her he was afraid of failing and letting others down. Myra reminded him of the small steps he had already taken and how much he had grown since they first met. She explained that mistakes were a normal part of learning and that everyone felt afraid sometimes. Ethan felt better after talking with her, and her gentle encouragement helped him feel brave enough to try. That night, after their talk, Ethan found himself thinking more about Myra's world. He realized he had never asked her what her home looked like or if she missed it. The next evening, when Myra arrived, Ethan invited her to sit by the window and asked her to tell him about her planet. Myra's eyes lit up and her voice grew soft as she described fields of bluegrass and tall silver trees that shined at night. She told Ethan that her people lived peacefully, helping each other and spending time under the stars. Myra admitted that she sometimes missed her home, but she was glad to be on Earth, helping humans who needed her. Ethan felt honored that Myra would share something so personal with him. As they talked, Ethan noticed how different his nights were compared to before. He was no longer afraid of the dark or of being alone. Instead, he found comfort in the soft glow of Myra's skin and the sound of her calm voice. Sometimes they would sit in silence, just listening to the night. Myra taught Ethan that it was okay not to talk all the time and that quiet moments could be just as important as words. After a few more days, Ethan's team project began at work. At first, he made small mistakes, but he remembered Myra's words and kept trying. His team noticed that he was calm and thoughtful, and soon they started to listen to his ideas. Linda, his coworker, even told him that he seemed different lately, more confident and kind. Ethan smiled and thought about Myra, knowing she was the reason for his change. One night, Ethan asked Myra why she had wanted to help humans so much. Myra was quiet for a moment and then explained that her people believed in sharing kindness with others. She told Ethan that before she came to Earth, she read stories about humans and felt that many people were lonely or sad. Myra said she wanted to bring hope and peace to at least one person, and that was why she had asked to be assigned to someone who needed extra help. Ethan felt a wave of gratitude and told her how much her presence meant to him. Myra's gentle way of caring made Ethan feel safe, and he found himself telling her things he had never told anyone else. He talked about his family, how far away they lived, and how he missed them but did not always know how to reach out. Myra listened with understanding and said that sometimes it was hard to be the first one to start a conversation, but even a small message could make a big difference. Ethan promised to try, and he felt hopeful about talking to his family soon. Days turned into weeks, and the seasons began to change. The nights grew cooler, and Ethan and Myra often sat with warm drinks, looking out at the city lights. Ethan realized that he was sleeping better, having fewer bad dreams, and waking up rested. He knew it was because of Myra's calming presence. Sometimes, when he felt anxious, he would write down his feelings in a notebook as Myra had taught him. Over time, Ethan saw that he worried less about small problems and focused more on things that made him happy. One night, Mara brought a small device from her home. She told Ethan it was used by her people to create gentle sounds that helped with relaxation. She turned it on, and the room filled with soft music, like the sound of distant waves and wind through trees. Ethan closed his eyes and let the sound wash over him. He felt all his worries leave his body, and for the first time he felt completely at peace. Myra smiled and told him that everyone needed a little help sometimes, and that there was nothing wrong with accepting kindness from others. As their friendship deepened, Ethan began to notice changes in himself. He started to care more about his health, cooking better meals and taking walks during the day. He even tried to reconnect with old friends, sending messages and asking how they were. Many of them wrote back, surprised but happy to hear from him. Ethan felt proud of himself, knowing that he was growing and changing for the better. Sometimes, Ethan wondered what other people would think if they knew about Mara. He worried that they might not understand or that someone might want to take her away. Myra sensed his concern and told him not to worry. She said their friendship was special and that what mattered most was how they helped each other. Myra explained that there were many kinds of friendships in the universe and each one was unique. Her words made Ethan feel better, and he decided to enjoy their time together without worrying about what others thought. One evening, while they were sitting together, Ethan asked Myra if she missed her family. Myra smiled softly and said she did, but she also felt lucky to have found a friend on Earth. She said that sometimes families were not just the people you were born with, but the people you cared about and who cared about you. Ethan agreed and told her he thought of her as family now. Myra looked at him with warm eyes and said she felt the same. That night, Ethan had a dream. In the dream, he was standing on a field of blue grass under a sky full of bright stars. Myra stood beside him, and they looked up together, feeling peaceful and happy. When Ethan woke up, he felt that the dream was a sign that he and Myra were truly connected, even if they came from different worlds. As the days went by, Ethan grew more confident in himself. He spoke up at work, shared ideas, and found that people listened to him. His team finished their project successfully, and the boss praised Ethan for his leadership. Linda told him again how much he had changed, and Ethan smiled, feeling proud. At home, he told Myra all about it, and she congratulated him, saying she always knew he could do it. Myra's visits continued to be the highlight of Ethan's nights. They shared stories, tried new ways to relax, and sometimes just enjoyed the quiet together. Ethan felt thankful every day for his unusual but wonderful partner. He knew that their friendship had changed him forever, and he looked forward to the future, whatever it might bring. Weeks passed, and Ethan and Myra's bond grew stronger. Ethan found comfort in Myra's nightly visits, but he also felt a new worry rising in his mind. He had noticed stories on social media about partners acting strangely, and some people said their partners had unusual powers. A few news reports mentioned that authorities would investigate cases where partners were not following the rules. Ethan worried that Myra's way of helping might be seen as breaking rules. He cared for Myra and feared she might be taken away. One afternoon at work, Ethan heard strange, hushed talk by the water cooler. Two coworkers whispered about a partner who stopped time for a few moments to calm an anxious person. Another said her partner could heal a wound with a touch. Ethan listened but did not join the talk. He thought of Myra, who always stayed calm and never forced her help on anyone. He wondered if she would get in trouble if someone reported her. That night, Ethan waited for Myra with a heavy heart. When she arrived, Ethan greeted her but then hesitated. Myra noticed his serious mood and asked what was wrong. Ethan told her about the rumors and reports he had heard. He said he was scared that someone would notice Myra's special ways and accuse her of breaking the rules. Myra listened and placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. She reminded him that she had permission to help in her way. Her abilities were part of the program and she had not done anything wrong. Ethan nodded but still felt uneasy. Myra suggested they find a way to show the authorities that her help was safe and kind. She said they could gather testimonials from people she had helped. But Ethan worried that involving others would put them in danger too. He wondered what to do. Myra thought for a moment and then smiled. She said they might not need many people. She said one clear example of positive help could be enough. The next day, Myra helped Ethan make a plan. They decided to visit a small community center that had a stress relief workshop. Myra said the manager there, Mr. Burns, was kind and open-minded. They could ask him if he would talk to the inspectors about Myra's methods. Ethan agreed but felt nervous about taking Myra out in public. That evening, Ethan and Myra left the apartment together for the first time. Ethan held his breath as they walked through the streets. Myra walked beside him, calm and confident. She said she was proud of him for stepping outside his comfort zone. Ethan smiled, feeling Myra's faith in him. At the community center, Mr. Burns greeted them warmly. He asked about their visit. Ethan explained that Myra was his partner and had helped him with stress and anxiety. He said he worried people might not understand her special skills. Mr. Burns listened and then spoke of his own experiences. He said the center had many workshops and that different helpers used many methods. He praised Myra's calm presence and said Ethan had improved greatly. He agreed to speak for Myra if anyone asked. Ethan felt relief wash over him. Myra thanked Mr. Burns and told Ethan how brave he was. On the walk home, Ethan felt lighter. He realized that talking to someone else had helped ease his fear. Myra said that the power of truth always helped, and that kindness was stronger than fear. Back at the apartment, Ethan and Myra continued their nightly routine. They shared tea and talked quietly. Ethan felt proud of himself for facing his worry. He thanked Myra for guiding him. A few days later, things changed in the city. A team of inspectors arrived to check on unusual partner behavior. They went from home to home asking questions. Ethan felt his heart beat fast when he heard a knock at his door. He opened it to find a serious-looking woman in a uniform. She introduced herself as Inspector Lane and said she was checking on partners. Ethan invited her in, trying to stay calm. Myra stood quietly behind him. Inspector Lane asked about his partner's methods. She said she had heard reports of powerful abilities and wanted to ensure no one was at risk. Ethan nodded and pointed to Myra. He told the inspector how Myra had helped him sleep better, feel calmer, and overcome his fears. He said her methods were gentle and respectful, never forced. Inspector Lane looked at Myra and then back at Ethan. She asked Myra if she could demonstrate how she helped. Myra nodded and asked Ethan if it was okay. Ethan agreed. Myra sat next to Ethan, placed a hand on his shoulder, and spoke softly. She guided him through a short breathing exercise. Ethan felt warmth and peace wash over him. The inspector watched quietly, noting his calm face. After the exercise, Inspector Lane asked Ethan how he felt. Ethan said he felt relaxed and thankful. Inspector Lane then spoke to Myra. She asked where Myra learned these methods. Myra explained about her homeworld and her people's focus on empathy and healing. She said her skills were meant to help, never harm. Inspector Lane thanked Myra and Ethan for their honesty. She said she would report back, but she did not see any harm in Myra's work. Ethan felt joy and relief. The inspector left, thanking them again. Ethan closed the door and hugged Myra. He told her he was so proud of her and thankful she was safe. In the days that followed, people in the city began to accept more kinds of partners. The rules changed to allow more methods if they were safe and kind. Ethan and Myra became local examples of successful cooperation. Some neighbors even asked to meet Myra, curious about her calming method. Ethan felt proud and happy. One night, Myra asked Ethan how he felt about sharing her with others. Ethan said he was okay with it as long as she stayed safe. He realized that someone else might find the same help he did. Myra smiled and thanked him for his support. As life returned to normal, Ethan and Myra continued their routine. They still had their quiet talks, but now they also walked in the park during the day and visited friends. Ethan felt his world expanding, filled with hope and kindness. Myra said she was happy to see how Ethan had grown. In one of their late-night talks, Ethan asked Myra what the next step should be. Myra thought and said she believed their partnership would continue to grow. She said they could help others learn to be kind and patient. Ethan agreed, feeling ready for new adventures. Their story was not just about managing stress. It was about trust and friendship across different worlds. Ethan learned to open his heart, and Myra learned to share her world with humans. Together, they showed that understanding and kindness could change lives. Ethan felt the calm in his life grow stronger. He saw the city in a new light, and his world had become full of hope. But one night, a storm hit the city. Heavy rain fell, and thunder shook the windows of his apartment. Ethan lay in bed, unable to sleep as he feared the storm. His heart pounded, and he felt small and alone. Myra arrived as usual, though the rain washed down the streets outside. Ethan opened the door, his hand trembling. Myra stepped inside, her silver hair damp but glowing in the low light. She carried a small case filled with soft fabric and gentle lights. She said her people used these items to calm storms in their world. Ethan watched as Myra set up the lights around the room. Soft orbs glowed with pale blue light, and the room felt warm and safe. Myra sat beside Ethan and took his hand. She spoke softly, telling him not to fear the storm, for it would pass. Ethan closed his eyes and listened to her words, feeling the tension leave his body. Myra then placed a small device on the table. It made a gentle sound like rain falling on leaves. The mix of Myra's calm voice, the soft lights, and the gentle sound made Ethan's fear fade. He lay back and rested his head on the pillow. Myra stayed by his side, watching as he relaxed. When Ethan opened his eyes, he saw Myra's face smiling at him. He realized he had fallen asleep. He thanked her, his voice soft. Myra said she was glad she could help. She told him that sometimes storms felt worse when facing them alone, but with support, they were easier to endure. The next morning, the storm had passed, and the city streets glistened. Ethan felt refreshed, as if the storm had washed away more than just the rain. At work, he shared his story with Linda, telling her how Myra helped him through the storm. Linda said she was amazed and happy he was safe. That evening, Ethan and Myra decided to celebrate his new strength. Myra suggested they host a small gathering at Ethan's apartment. She said sharing kindness with others was important in her culture. Ethan felt nervous about inviting friends, but Myra assured him she would help. Ethan called two friends, Lily and Marcus. He invited them to dinner the next night. They were surprised but excited to come. Ethan cleaned his apartment and prepared simple dishes. Myra helped with small tasks, using her gentle touch to calm Ethan's nerves. When Lily and Marcus arrived, they were greeted by Myra's soft glow and Ethan's warm smile. They sat at the table with plates of food and soft music playing. Ethan introduced Myra as his stress relief partner and explained how she helped him. Lily asked questions kindly, and Marcus smiled as he listened. Myra told them a little about her world and her purpose on Earth. She spoke in a calm voice, making Lily and Marcus feel at ease. They asked her how they could manage stress too. Myra showed them a simple breathing exercise and demonstrated the gentle lights. Ethan watched as his friends tried the exercise and relaxed. The gathering brought joy to Ethan's home. He saw his friends laughing and talking. Myra stayed in the background, helping where needed. Ethan realized that sharing Myra's gifts made others feel safe too. He felt proud and grateful. After dinner, Lily and Marcus thanked Ethan and Myra. They said they felt calmer than they had in weeks. Ethan felt a warm glow in his heart. Myra looked happy too, knowing she had helped more than one person now. That night, as they cleaned up, Ethan thanked Myra for suggesting the gathering. Myra said she believed in spreading kindness. Ethan agreed and said he wanted to share Myra's methods with more people. Over the next days, Ethan and Myra visited the community center again, leading small sessions on relaxation techniques. Their partnership grew and more people joined. Ethan felt fulfilled, using what he had learned from Myra to help others. One night, Myra told Ethan that her assignment period was extended. She said her people saw the good she was doing and wanted her to continue. Ethan felt joy and gratitude that Myra would stay longer. As Part 5 ended, Ethan knew his life had changed in more ways than he imagined. From facing storms to helping, Friends and neighbors, he had grown in confidence and kindness. And with Myra by his side, he knew he could face any challenge, day or night. Ethan woke one morning feeling the warmth of the sun on his face. He stretched and remembered Myra's promise that night. She said their work together was not done and that they could help more people learn kindness. Ethan smiled and thought about what the day would bring. During breakfast, Ethan looked at his phone and saw messages from friends he had reconnected with. They asked how he was and if he wanted to meet. Ethan felt proud that he reached out as Myra taught him. He replied, with plans to meet Lily and Marcus later that week for coffee. He felt excitement he had not felt in years. Ethan left for work, taking a new route through a small park. He noticed flowers blooming and birds singing. He paused on a bench and took a deep breath, thinking of Myra's lessons on noticing small joys. He felt peaceful before even starting his day. At office, Ethan and his team prepared for a new project. Ethan felt ready to lead, no longer afraid of making mistakes. He spoke clearly and listened to his colleagues' ideas. When one teammate, Sarah, seemed upset about a tight deadline, Ethan used Myra's gentle method. He offered calm words and suggested small steps. The team's mood improved, and they all felt more confident. That evening, Ethan came home to find Myra waiting. She greeted him with a soft smile. Ethan told her about the day and how he helped Sarah feel better. Myra was pleased and said that helping others learn kindness was important work. Myra asked Ethan if he had thought about their next steps. Ethan said he wanted to teach more people relaxation methods and help them see small joys. Myra agreed and said they could hold regular meetings at the community center and invite neighbors. Ethan liked the idea and called Mr. Burns to arrange a weekly session. They spent the rest of the night planning. Myra described exercises from her home world that promoted calm and connection. Ethan wrote down ideas, excited to share them. The next night, Ethan and Myra arrived at the community center. A small group waited: Lily, Marcus, Sarah, and a few others from the neighborhood. Ethan felt nervous, but Myra held his hand, giving him strength. Ethan welcomed everyone and introduced Myra. He spoke about his own journey and how Myra helped him. Then Myra guided the group through a breathing exercise. She spoke softly and the room grew quiet. Myra lit gentle lights and played soft sounds from her device. The participants closed their eyes and followed her voice. After the exercise, people shared their feelings. One neighbor said she felt relaxed for the first time in months. Another said he felt hopeful. Ethan smiled, feeling proud of their work. Over the next weeks, the group grew. More people came to learn simple methods to reduce stress. Ethan and Myra led sessions, sometimes introducing new exercises, other times listening to participants' stories. They built a small community of support based on kindness and calm. One afternoon, Ethan received a message from Inspector Lane. She wrote that she heard about the community center sessions and wanted to observe someday. Ethan felt a moment of worry, but then remembered how honest and open they had been. He invited Inspector Lane to the next session. When the inspector arrived, Ethan and Myra welcomed her. The session began with a breathing exercise. Inspector Lane watched as participants relaxed and shared positive feedback. After the session, she thanked Ethan and Myra. She said she was impressed and saw no harm in their methods. Inspector Lane said the program could be a model for others. Ethan felt relief and happiness. That night, Ethan and Myra celebrated quietly at home. They shared tea and looked out at the city lights. Ethan thanked Myra for changing his life and for trusting him. Myra said she was grateful to have found a friend and partner on Earth. Seasons changed, and the community center sessions continued. Ethan found purpose in helping others learn kindness. He also continued to grow personally. He reconnected with his family, sending messages and making video calls. They were proud of him and could see how much he had changed. One evening, Myra told Ethan something new. She said her people had extended the program to include human teachers like Ethan. She explained that in the future, humans could learn these methods from others who once had alien partners. Ethan felt honored and ready to teach. Ethan and Myra held a final special session at the community center. Myra led the exercises one last time. Then Myra invited Ethan to guide the group. Ethan spoke with confidence and kindness, teaching what Myra had shown him. The group listened and followed his words. When the session ended, people clapped and thanked him. After the session, Myra told Ethan that her assignment was complete. She said it was time for her to return home. Ethan felt a mix of sadness and pride. He thanked Myra for everything. Myra placed her hand on his shoulder and said she would never forget their friendship on Myra's last night. Ethan held a small farewell gathering. Lily, Marcus, Sarah, Mr. Burns, and others came to say goodbye. They gave Myra small gifts, flowers, a notebook, and a picture of the group. Myra smiled and thanked everyone, saying she had learned as much as she had taught. After the gathering, Myra and Ethan sat quietly. Ethan said he would miss her every night. Myra smiled softly and said that even if she was far away, they would always share the bond they built. She told Ethan to continue teaching and helping. Ethan promised. Myra stepped toward the door. Ethan held out his hand and Myra took it. She glowed softly and then a bright light filled the room. When the light faded, Myra was gone. Ethan stood alone but felt Myra's warmth in his heart. The next night, Ethan sat by the window and looked at the stars. He remembered Myra's words about wishes. He whispered a wish for her safe journey home. Ethan felt at peace, knowing their friendship would guide him. From that day on, Ethan continued the sessions at the center. He taught breathing exercises, gentle lights, and small acts of kindness. The community grew. Ethan lived with hope and purpose, carrying Myra's lessons forever, and every night he looked at the sky and remembered his friend who came at night to bring light into his life.